for someone to do that. I mean, it said they had suspended him, which I guess is the BMA, whatever. They, as a doctor at the moment, pending investigation, they've suspended him. But
Yeah.
looking just a little bit, I don't know much of the story, but a little bit further into it, the patient was quite a heavy drug addict
Right.
who used to pester the doctor regularly, and it got to the point where the doctor thought, "I just don't want this man as a patient." And I guess it could have affected the doctor in very negative ways. I mean, depression or feeling threatened and so on.
Yeah.
And as far as I can glean from what the précis of this story I read, he had paid he had paid this patient, believe it or not, £15,000 to go away, to say you're no longer my patient. Which, so you think that may have not been the wisest thing to do, because the inevitable happened. He
Yeah.
came back for more. And I don't know how many times that happened, but it got to the point where he thought, I can't have this man hassling me like this anymore. So when he next came in, when he beat himself up, he actually had the patient in the surgery with him.
Yeah.
And so he suddenly started punching himself. But it
Yeah.
shows the state of mind he must have got to. But he was punching himself in the chest and in the face, and then screaming out, "Someone please help me, I'm being attacked." So of course people rushed in, managed to grab hold of the patient, who sat there quite bemused, I
Yeah.
guess. The police came and they arrested him and took him away. And of course, subsequently, the truth came out. So it will be interesting to see what happens, because clearly you can't have people accusing somebody else of something like that when it's actually not the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he's disqualified and taken off the doctor's register for a period of time or whatever. But I actually feel he must have been in a very, very stressed up state of mind to do something like that. He saw it as the only way forward, I guess.
Yeah. I think his
What
name is
what I don't understand is I've got a question. I've not read the article. I've not read anything about it.
right.
Like what Trevor said, you said he had paid the patient £15,000. Why?
Mm.
Why would you pay your patient £15,000?
To get rid of him. He thought by doing that he wouldn't be troubled anymore. I mean, it says a couple of things: that the doctor's got a lot of money, first of all, but that he was foolish, because it's like blackmail, isn't it? If you pay
Yes.
the ransom or whatever, or
Yeah.
pay a bribe, then they're going to come back and keep
Oh yeah.
threatening you. So, as I say, I didn't get the full details of that story, but I know £15,000 was involved, and the patient came back for more money. So he reached a point, the doctor, where he thought, I can't deal with this anymore. I mean, you'd think maybe he would have gone, I don't know, to the police. But then again, when you think of the doctor's confidentiality, they're not allowed to disclose things to anybody outside of that patient doctor relationship, except and unless the patient has said he's murdered somebody or is going to murder somebody, then a doctor is duty bound under law to disclose that. But apart from that, I don't think there's many other or any other reasons why a doctor should ever disclose patient confidentiality. So maybe he felt trapped and he thought, I've got to get rid of this man. And maybe knowing he was a drug addict, he could get away with threatening, saying he'd beaten him up and that he would be believed. But clearly he wasn't.
Another question I've got is
Yeah.
this a public hospital or a private hospital?
Right. It's a GP practice.
GP.
Is it GP
Yeah.
practice? Is it like
Yes.
a
Yeah.
private one, like just normal NHS one?
I would imagine an NHS practice. That's the
Yeah.
impression I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, to me, that doctor, I'm sorry to say, is foolish.
Right.
The first thing is, I won't pay my patient £15,000 because I
Mm.
don't want to be their GP or whatever.
Yeah.
If I know it's patients, I know it as a medical doctor, you have to be professional. But if
Yeah.
I know, because I know situations where patients will go to a GP and say, I don't want this medical doctor as my doctor. I prefer a female doctor, or
Yeah.
I prefer this doctor. And the GP practice would change such patient's doctor. So why can't he talk to his practice and say, I don't want this man, and they move into some will go to a GP and say, I don't want this medical doctor as my doctor. I prefer a female doctor, or I prefer this doctor. And the GP practice will change such patient's doctor. So why can't he talk to his practice and say, I don't want this man, and they move into somebody else? That's one. Secondly, what I'll do if that GP practice will not change that person as my patient, anytime, because I know most of the time these doctors usually have a list of what they're going to have for the week. This is patient, I'm having this patient on Tuesday, I'm having this patient on Monday at 4. I know they usually have that. They usually have a record of their patient before they attend to the patient. Once I know the GP practice is not going to move this person off my list, whenever I know he's going to be on my list, I just call off sick. So I just feel that medical doctor is foolish. Why pay him that? I wouldn't beat myself and to frame somebody. No, I won't do it. I'll just call off sick. And if I call off sick, there's nothing anybody can do about it. I just feel it's foolish. Yeah. He's just put himself in trouble. I bet you they're going to revoke his license.
I mean, I think that it could be that the patient became like a stalker, so that he may have needed to go sick a lot of the time, because it's a sort of situation where possibly the patient would just turn up. And if he refused to see another doctor, I don't know what the etiquette is with doctors and patients in that sense, but I think let's face it, go back a few years, most patients thought of their doctor and saw the same one every time. I mean, now we can barely see a doctor anyway, so that patient was lucky to see that bloke, I guess. But no, I don't know the full details, but he must have got to a bad state of mind to actually, clearly intelligent man, a doctor, to start beating himself up. And I suppose he wanted to do it maybe in the company of the patient, just to really make his point. And he probably knew the police would take him away, which they did, only then to discover the truth. But yeah, it's quite an interesting, bit of a sad story, really.
I still think there's more to it that we have read, or you guys have read, that's not been said.
Right.
For example, there was a movie. There was a movie I watched. It's more like a pharmacist now. This lady comes to this. I think the guy was the lady came to this GP, right, and to this pharmacy, right, and she said she wanted something. Or maybe they were neighbors. So she knew the guy was a pharmacist. So,
I think your audio is dropped out.
And ask for. Has it dropped out now? Can you hear?
It's back on now. Sorry, yeah.
It's back on. All right. So she goes to this guy and asks for a particular off-the-counter subscription. And because the guy feels, I know her, the guy was giving her, and it got to a time they started having an affair. So this guy was stuck. Whenever she comes around, he hasn't got a choice but to give her, because the lady was now saying, I'm going to tell the authorities you've been giving me. Do you get it? So this guy was panicking. They're going to take my license, so I have to keep giving her. And this lady was having a problem with her husband. So the lady was, trying to tell the pharmacy that, look, can you not help me with sorting my husband out, at least doing something to him so that you can have me fully? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So this guy snuck into the lady's house, thinking, I have to get rid of this lady. I have to do something. So she's gone into this lady's house and she's knocked her off. She's wrapped her off, put her in a suitcase, and kept her somewhere. And everyone started looking for these ladies. They couldn't find her. But in the long run, they got to know that through the CCTV and some other thing that is the pharmacist has done. So I think there's more to this doctor-patient relationship that we don't know about. There's something between them that the guy couldn't get.